Room 237 is a Jumperscape audio production. Ah, stranger, we've missed you. Join us in Room 237.
Ladies and gentlemen,
whoa!
tonight will be a historic night for podcasting as we have a discussion with the devil. Okay, hello again.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in your host, James Paulis.
Yeah, I know. We got quite a show for you today. Mario Kart. I don't know. I could never be a late night host. That sounds stressful.
Mario Kart. What?
We're back. Room 237. We're talking about a late night with the devil.
Wow. What a movie.
Yeah. This is a quick disclaimer though. This movie, I love this movie. This movie was like so fun and unique, but I do have to quickly say, we here on Room 237 do not condone or support the use of AI art in films, production, and while I'm sure they had quite the special effects team and artists on board, I still feel like as a principle, it's not something I can get behind. Do your own research on the movie and AI art and AI use in Hollywood to get your own opinion on it. But personally, I could not go forward without at least mentioning that.
Yeah.
Because this movie does use it. I believe I read it was 3 of the title card images where they cut to commercial. Most notably, the one with the skeleton. You could just tell it looked wrong.
Yeah.
You can maybe argue that helps. That's part of the point. Is maybe it looks wrong.
Yeah.
But I can just personally not get behind it. But yeah, now we got that out of the way, we can gush about this movie.
Yeah. And by the way, because I did his introduction, but he didn't bother to do mine. Kidding. My name's I'm Ashton.
I'm sorry. I thought you were being the producer, and I was. That's Ashton.
That is me.
She's here too.
Yeah, and this is Room 237.
Yes, but yeah, Late Night with the Devil came out this year, 2024. If someone's listening to this next year,
whoa.
It is a very unique movie. It's directed by apologies if I butcher this pronunciation, the Cairns brothers, which would be Cameron Cairns and Colin Cairns. They're Australian. So I think this was an Australian production. I have no idea. But it stars one of the most underrated actors in the world, and that's David. I also am terrible at pronouncing his name. Dasmalchian.
Yeah, what do I know him from?
He's in a lot of things. He's just never. This might be his first top bill role. Because
I remember looking at stuff for this movie, and I was like, "Oh, I'll like it."
I know him from the Dark Knight trilogy. He was the Suicide Squad, the Spots guy.
That's why. Okay.
He was in Oppenheimer, Dune. He's in a lot of things, but this is, I believe, his first starring role. I could be wrong.
It was the Spots
guy.
It's
the first starring role I've seen him in, and he really killed it because he really pulls off the 70s late night host thing to a T.
Oh yeah. So, like James said, we started off with a disclaimer, but we're going to start off with a non-spoiler section where we just give you a overall how we feel about the movie. Do we want to do our ratings ahead of time?
Yeah, I say so.
Okay.
I say we'll do our ratings kind of in the middle of the episode this time. This is one of those movies that I I always say this and think this before anyone would listen to this show, but you have to watch this movie.
Oh my God. Please watch this movie.
I think it really caters to what a lot of people in our generation find scary as well as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
It has that, I feel like this waters it down a little bit. It kind of has that analog horror kind of feel.
I would say, yeah, it kind of does.
That lost media kind of thing going on.
That is what it is.
Because the film is presented in kind of a mockumentary form, as like you get a little voiceover giving you the context of what you're about to see,
Mm-hmm.
like assuming that in this version of the world it's getting released to like an audience as a, you know, this thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the footage of it for the first time, you know. Except I guess not the first time because they did say it aired. But
Yeah.
it's presented as you are watching an episode of this late night show.
Yeah, it was.
Which is called Night Owls.
Yeah, which is such a
with
clever.
Jack Delroy.
It's such a clever name.
And
but
it has a lot of symbolism too, which we'll probably get into more in the
we'll get into
spoiler
it more later.
section.
But
I'm like scared to talk about the spoilers because I'm like, they used some like real life, like they used a lot of real life conspiracy / secret society stuff in this movie. And I found that really like, I was actually really surprised by that. I didn't expect that. Obviously they tuned it to their own like universe. Because obviously we don't know a lot about a lot of that stuff and what actually goes on in these places. But so the basic premise is essentially Jack Delroy, he cannot keep up with Johnny Carson at all. And he's very likable. He does well in the ratings. But around the time that his wife dies of cancer, his show is on the decline. And he's basically going to try something drastic.
and that's where this movie is taking place.
So he's going to have his own little spooky themed episode of his show.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if the title's anything to go by, he's, in all sense, I guess, about to interview the devil.
Yeah.
In a roundabout kind of way.
Yeah.
And if you just like watch a trailer, like that style that they do a lot to make it look like a 1970s late night show.
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Down to like the camera quality, the even like unintentionally maybe the effects kind of look 70s. I feel like it's definitely one of my favorite kind of rebirth, like this age of like the 70s aesthetic like resurgence. It's definitely one of my favorite examples of that.
Yeah. The whole thing, I hated the movie The Joker, so the end of the movie is such a relief for me. But it feels like when he goes on basically the Johnny Carson show at the end of The Joker, that's what like this whole movie feels like.
Yeah, pretty much. Because whenever that part of the movie is happening, it is like, wow, it does look like a 70s talk show. That's this entire movie.
Yeah, it gives you like, even though like I never watched 70s talk shows really, it gives you like a sense of calm and nostalgia while you're also like sitting on the edge of your seat like what's about to go wrong here. I think that's what it is. I think that's how that just the whole time I'm thinking this is how I felt watching the end of Joker.
For the whole movie.
For the whole movie. The whole thing.
And I just can't believe that more movies like this don't exist. I'm sure they do, and I'm just ignorant. I'm sure there's other kind of similar
I'm sure they're
unique
about
ideas. I'm sure there definitely is about to.
I'm sure there definitely is about to be a bunch of these.
Because this is a Shudder original. It's not on Shudder.
What?
Which was so annoying.
Yeah.
Because we were going to do this weeks ago, but it was only in theaters, and we just didn't have the time or planning to do a theater experience episode.
Yeah.
And they're a little harder. So I was like, okay, it's got to be on streaming soon. Because like it was by the time I even heard of this movie, it was already like halfway through its theatrical run. Because I believe this came out in March, around there, mid-March.
Yeah, I think so, somewhere in there.
So we're a little late to the punch, but that's okay. We're late to the punch on almost every movie we do. So that's all that really matters.
I'm always late to the punch.
Jeez. But the movie really has this ever-growing sense of dread throughout.
Yeah.
It really builds up to the climax, and the end of the movie is just bonkers. Obviously, don't want to get too much into it. I'm serious. If you are listening to me right now, you can listen to the rest of this non-spoiler section, but please pause and come back.
Yeah, because this isn't like when we've said this a couple times before. This isn't like those times, because this isn't just like a horror movie that you might have seen before. It's definitely a different kind of horror movie. It's a new kind of horror movie, I feel, personally.
No jump scares.
Yeah, none. Zero.
That's part of what makes this movie so brilliant, is also they can't use the same cheap horror like soundtrack tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's happening live on television. That's how you're supposed to feel about it. And so when something scary happens, there's not going to be a boom.
There's no sting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no sting. It's just, it happens and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You gasp with the audience.
They
That's
actually
as close
play with
as you
that
get.
a little bit.
They do.
In the beginning.
They do. Like as close as you get is the audience gasping.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And like it's so different. So you have to when we say we're about to get into spoilers, you have to stop. I promise you can make it through this movie. I don't personally have any trigger warnings. I don't think there's anything too...
No, this movie doesn't really deal with anything, I'd say, too...
triggering.
I'd even say, like, I guess, like...
Too real, I guess.
Yeah.
But, so, you can make it through this movie, I promise. When we say stop, go watch it. It was $6 on Amazon. Was that Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was $6.
In UHD.
Yeah.
4K.
Yeah. It was
4K for this movie that looks like it's in the 70s, but hey.
But yeah, it's, you know, it's within your reach. I promise you, it is so worth the watch.
And if you're one of the 5 people with AMC Plus, it's there for you for free.
It's there too, yeah. But yeah, when we say watch, I mean, we sat there for about, I would say a good minute and a half, just kind of staring at the credits roll, like when the movie ended.
Because this movie ends at 100 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, the pace picks up so fast.
And man, it's hard not to talk about spoilers. I'm trying to think of anything else I have to say before just kind of giving a...
If you're a vintage spooky girly, this is your vibe.
There you go.
That's what I have to say. So let's do our ratings real quick. What do we want to rate this on a scale of?
How many AI title cards out of 10 would you give it?
No.
I personally give it 9.
Yeah, I would say I'm also at a 9 with this one. So there's our ratings. And now pause. Go to Amazon or AMC, whatever. Get this movie, watch it, and then sit down and come on back and have a conversation with us.
If you want to have a literal conversation with us, you can also go to discord.gg/Jumperscape, and you can give your own AI art card things out of 10 on this movie after you've watched it.
Actually, please do, because I do want to talk to people about this movie.
This is a movie I would like to analyze more, with a group. I want more people to experience this. Yeah, because I'm gonna force more people to experience this.
Absolutely, yeah.
I legit. I next time I'm with Austin from the library, for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna make him watch that movie.
Movie night.
Movie night.
Yeah.
But yep, you have been warned. It is now spoiler time.
Spoiler time.
There are so many title cards at the beginning of this movie.
So many of them.
They do like we thought it was real for a second because it starts doing all these production studio like splash arts essentially.
Yeah.
But there was like 10 of them. That might be an over exaggeration, but it just kept going, and I'm like, how many people worked on this movie? And then it took one that says established in 2068. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, it took that long for me too. I was like, wow, this is like 10 more than an early 2000s movie that had like 10 production companies on it.
Because there are movies out there that do take that long to get through the production company splash art section.
There's a point where you're like, wait a minute, this is a little bit too long. There's something going on here we're missing.
Like, think the fake trailers at the beginning of Tropic Thunder. It's very much coded like that, if that makes any sense, because they start getting sillier and sillier as they go.
The title cards were cool. The one of them was like claymation. I loved that one.
It struck me as the directors just be like, let's just do some stuff. Like, I guess that kind of gives the implication that this recounting / re-release of this episode of the show is being released way in the future.
Yeah.
Because maybe that 2068 wasn't just a goof.
Oh, yeah.
This movie takes place in the future.
This movie
doesn't.
It's going to have a lot of theorizing for sure, because there's a lot of open ends by the end. It's crazy. But yeah, I guess it might take place in the future.
I guess it technically does. Technically, in a roundabout kind of way. But it opens with a basically hardcore as hell montage of 70s unrest, which was kind of interesting. So I guess it is some guy in like 2080 just going, the 1970s, war, suffering, like gas prices, like
right.
And I guess it kind of does set the scene for the version of the world that you will be spending the rest of the movie in. But we do get to learn about Jack Delroy and the night owls.
Yeah. So he's just kind of like this. It seems like he was a really promising up and coming late night host who marries this Broadway star. And he's got connections to some like celebrity cult thing called The Grove. Was
invited to what's called in the movie The Grove, which they describe as an all-male summer camp that is that there are conspiracies linked to it being more of a cult. And this is obviously, you see like some photo and like some like black and white video of like people in weird esoteric costumes and a owl statue. If you know, you know, it's Bohemian Grove. It's essentially it's like a version of the Bohemian Grove. Do you know what the Bohemian Grove is?
I don't.
Well, it'll make a lot more. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't mean I know what that is just by you saying it's a real thing.
The Bohemian Grove is, I'll just go off the official description, is a men's club in the Redwoods in California, with such members as the Bush family, and basically a bunch of very powerful and wealthy men.
Whoa.
And they do all kinds of weird stuff.
Whoa.
Allegedly.
Whoa.
Anyone who goes there says that it's basically just summer camp. We just hang out and, you know, discuss. But it's very much inspired by this real thing. that it also attracts a lot of mystery and a lot of intrigue from the general public who knows about it, which now you know about it.
Now I know.
And they only get alluded to in this beginning. They just say, "Oh, he was invited to join the Grove, a mysterious men's club." Yeah, that's very important later.
Yeah. But yeah, then they just kind of go on and describe his show, and turns out his wife gets lung cancer, terminal lung cancer. They specified that she was a non-smoker.
Yeah, which was like, I guess it was to highlight. Well, I mean, I think now it makes more sense. So
you think that he gave her lung cancer?
Not he.
They gave her lung cancer?
They imply that he agreed to something.
Yes, I agree.
And shortly after, that's what happened. I feel like that's why they put that importance on a non-smoker. Like, it's obviously lung cancer is not exclusive to smokers. It can happen to anybody. But yeah. I think that's why they felt the need to say it. I'm just theorizing.
Yeah, that's one way to like.
I feel like it's made clear that he is partly responsible for her death.
I think for her death. I don't know if for the lung cancer. I think the lung cancer was a happy coincidence for him. Not a happy, but you know what I mean.
Possibly.
A fortunate coincidence for him. I
guess it can go that way too. Well, anyway, this is a hard movie to talk about in order.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, I am hoping if you are listening right now, you've seen it.
You better have. Yeah, I wasn't planning to try to keep us on track today.
Because as much as I wholeheartedly believe you should always watch every movie before you listen to this show, I know there's probably people who just want to know what happens in a movie because they can't do horror movies because they have anxiety or they just are scared.
You can do this one. You can definitely do this one. I believe in you. I know you started listening to the spoiler section. Stop.
There's no turning back now. This is you turn around. You, Jim, I'm talking to you. Wait.
Kyle, I'm talking to you. Stop. Go actually watch the movie. And then come back.
He does watch the movie. I'm pretty sure. He said he watches the movie.
I figure he does watch most of them, but
just in case.
Just in case you haven't. Okay, that's why I'm saying that.
But we do get to see that his highest rated show was he brought on his dying wife. And I honestly, even though I feel like there was a bit of like honesty with that, I was still like, when they're like, it was his highest rated show, but he still didn't beat Johnny Carson. I'm like, man, you did something pretty scummy and it didn't even accomplish what you wanted it to.
See, but
whether he would admit that's what he wanted to do or could admit to himself that he was trying to get good ratings.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what it was.
I mean, it's clear that he really does want his show to be successful, but I feel like he never set out to do it the scummy way. I feel like there were others pushing him to do it the scummy way. We see his producer like keep making him do things throughout the show. Now, I'm not saying
the producer is the most 70s producer looking dude I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely, he is. And I feel like, you know, it was kind of like a thing that his producer brought up and he brought to his wife and he was like,
yeah,
you know, do you want to do this thing? And she was like, sure, we'll do it.
And it kind of looked like they shared a nice moment.
I mean, he obviously feels bad.
Oh,
in that
yeah.
moment.
You get see a tear close-ups into his face, you know.
And man, it's sad. I was ready to cry already. We were like 15 seconds into this movie and I was like, Okay. And then they went, and she died 2 days later. It was like, oh my God.
Man, what a film.
And so after his wife dies, he takes like a sabbatical for a while from the show because he kind of just like walks out on it, I guess. And that's what makes me feel that like there is something genuine about him. He's not just like a bad person.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think. Well, there's so many ways to read into this movie and how culpable he is to the events of it and the events preceding it. But you're never given really answers to any of that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you just have to come to your own conclusion.
My thing is, I think he's just a good soul gone bad. Basically, that's the read I get.
Yeah, but then we get to the episode in question, and the Halloween vibe. It's a Halloween episode of this show, by the way. The Halloween vibes are immaculate.
It's perfect.
They got the whatever the instrument is that goes woo.
Oh shoot, I know the name of that.
When you like put your hand near it, they're ready to go, and they have a couple different acts coming up. The first one I totally thought was a hack, and now I'm not so sure. They have your traditional, campus touring psychic / hypnotic man, who like does a bunch of crowd work and stuff. And I truly was like, the second he was on stage, my brain was like, hack, fake.
No,
like
he is. So, okay. Basically, he does this whole thing where he interacts with the crowd, and the one guy like makes fun of him, like, oh, this is, I mean, yeah, but no, they're not dead or gone. And no, she just left me, whatever. And then he has this one-on-one like connection with these two ladies about, one of them, it's a dead son and a dead brother. Same person. I just mean like, and he has that like connection with them, and then stands up and they go to commercial and just starts screaming in pain.
About Minnie. Who's Minnie? Unmarried man with a ring. Like,
and his eyes roll up into the back of his head. And he looks kind of freaky for a moment, like normal human freaky, not like paranormal freaky, but like.
Because we get confirmation that the first guy in the crowd was a plant,
and we get
what I took that as when that happened was he was a plant by the studio to make him look like a goober.
Right, but then later on in the movie that. There's a character who basically is just the skeptic of the whole thing. He goes up to the mother and daughter that he had that connection with and finds out that they had to do a questionnaire before they entered the show, and that the psychic's wife came up to them like before the show and asked them questions about their dead son.
I missed that.
Yeah, I was paying really close attention this entire time. So I think he was a hack, and Minnie's presence was working so hard to get a message out there that she literally just like fucking grabbed him by the head and started like screaming at him.
I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah, so I think he really was a hack, and that's why he's so startled for the rest. Like, not only does he feel ill, he is ill for like the rest of the time on the show.
He don't look too good.
No,
he wants to leave.
Yeah, but that's why he's so like absolutely like he's in shock because he's never actually experienced that before because he's a hack.
And then, unfortunately, we meet the worst human ever after him. And that's Carmichael.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
He's the skeptic. He's part of one of them skeptic societies. And immediately they ask him the question that I'd ask anyone that's in a skeptic society is, why do you have to trample our fun?
Really, yeah.
Why can't you just let us think that there's more to the world than meets the eye, and like just let mystery be mystery, and not be such a professional. Like literally, he's a professional buzzkill.
Yeah, and he was a magician. That's the thing, is like you're supposed to play into the mystical, and he's like, no, I'm just upfront about my stuff not being real. These people are lying.
And God, he's such a chode.
I hate him.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
I hate him.
Like, I wish I kept count of how many times he killed the vibe, because it'd probably be in the deep 50s. Because his whole role in the movie is basically just to be an asshole that is set up for, like, you can tell it's like, okay, when shit goes down, it's going to be most satisfying to see whatever happens to him.
Right. Like, think of the most pretentious person that you absolutely hate with your entire being. Think of your worst college professor. I think that's who this guy is.
That's exactly what it is.
That's who this guy is.
And
He's
also,
got that God complex thing going on.
The movie works in the structure, which you know this because you've watched the movie, where it goes to black and white whenever it's the behind the scenes stuff during the commercial breaks. He always looks just like Vladimir Lenin, but mostly when it's black and white.
Yeah,
I was like, I just see Lenin walking around being an asshole, but that's pretty much how Lenin was, if I'm correct.
And the other thing is, every time except for the last time it cuts to black and white, you can hear one of the camera, basically it's the guy in charge of all the people who operate the cameras.
Yeah.
And every single time he's on a headset and he's going, I don't know what you're seeing on this camera. There's nothing there. I don't know if you caught that, but I was like, I
did.
Okay.
I'm assuming you can do a little Easter egg hunt if you want to rewatch this movie, because you already watched it. You can see Minnie
all over the place. She's in Reflections. She's in TVs. She's I do want to rewatch, because I'm sure she shows up earlier than we first noticed her.
I think we only caught like 2.
Yeah.
Like total. There's got to be more than that.
Well, I wonder if there's more than just Minnie, because I think there's 2 entities here.
Oh no, yeah. I think the one in the TV static actually is not Minnie. I guess I can say Mr. Wiggles,
the devil,
the entity, the evil entity in question.
Yeah.
Who we only know as Mr. Wiggles.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's more places where we can find Minnie and we can find this other entity, because the first one I saw was so obvious. Like, we had to rewind it, and I had to point out what mirror I was talking about, because you just weren't looking at the right thing.
The mirror was black. It was a black mirror.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I wasn't looking at it like that's a mirror right there.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I don't blame you, but like once you saw it, you're like, oh, I was really, really meant to see this one. Like you're like, oh, that one
still isn't a flash though. It's real quick.
Yeah, but it's not like way hidden,
But if you love Easter egg hunting in a movie, this is probably a really good movie for you.
I really do want to go back and try to find more.
Oh, whenever we rewatch it, I might see if we can watch it again.
I was thinking the same thing.
We might watch it again tonight. We're gonna try and see if Austin would watch it though. Movie night. But yeah. Basically, Carmichael's like there just to be like, oh, he's using suggestion, and he fumbled like 5 times, but in hindsight he was right, so it makes him look good, and everyone forgets all the times he messed up the names and stuff.
Well, and during this first segment, Carmichael is such like a skeptic, like kind of like in the skeptic asshole way that's performative, because he's on TV.
Yeah.
So during this whole first section, I'm like, ooh, he's gonna be a believer as soon as those cameras turn off, isn't he? He's gonna be a believer.
Nope.
No.
He's even worse when the cameras are off.
No, he's so much worse when the cameras are off.
Because he's sneaky and he's going up. He's like, I hear you're at the Grove. You think you can get me in there? I heard about the orgies. Like,
and he goes, do they do orgies and sacrifices? I want to know.
Which now
mostly
it checks.
About the orgies.
It checks.
Oh, it checks so hard.
It checks because what happens later. We're kind of going out of order. I just think it's hilarious that the big skeptic in the movie, when he can no longer be skeptical, immediately pledges himself to the devil.
Oh yeah. Yes. Sorry. I was like, what do you mean? The orgy? There's no orgy at the end of this movie.
No. Because he's like so curious about the Grove, which has these like mystical occult like kind of implications. But the second it is confirmed to him that this is real, he immediately himself. Yeah, he's like, Lord of Flies, accept me. Like it's in.
He's a pick-me.
He is a pick-me.
He's a pick-me.
He's a pick-me for the devil. That's going to be the sequel.
Take me for the devil.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so he comes on and he starts questioning. I already forget this guy's name. He's great.
I don't think I wrote it down. Oh, wait. Uh-oh, my handwriting. Crystal. Crystal.
I'm looking it up. Actually, I really don't have enough internet. Let's see.
Crystal.
Something like that, yeah.
It's Crystal. These were parentheses. I thought they were... My handwriting's really bad, folks. But yeah, he's picking apart Crystal's whole act, but Crystal is still tweaking out after that last one.
I'm sorry. I Googled Late Night with the Devil to pull up the IMDb page, and people also ask, is Late Night with the Devil based on a true story? I sincerely doubt that.
Jeez. Oh man, I love the world we live in. Well, yeah, but Crystal is Crystal is freaking the hell out still, and like keeps coughing. He keeps trying to defend himself, but then he'll keep coughing, and eventually he gets fed up and he starts trying to leave. He's like trying to rip the door open.
Yeah, and the whole time the skeptic guy just keeps like nagging, and finally our host Jack gets so fed up with it, he goes, but his last one, that was about me. Minnie is the private name I used with my wife.
And then there's a ooh.
And like I could see it still feels like he could be a hack, except you look at Crystal's face and he's like, finally, here, spirit, you can stop killing me right now, and talk to him. Like he's like, and he like tries to grab at him and tries to get to him. And he starts growling and like crawling on the ground.
And I love me a supernatural vomiting scene, because he just starts vomiting black goo all over the place and on Carmichael, and it sizzled. Hell yeah. It's like he's I forget what brand. He's like, this is a Versace. It's not Versace. He's really mad about his sport coat
from somebody
getting messy. Meanwhile, this man is literally vomiting black goo across the room. And Mr. Carmichael says off air, oh, it was controlled projectile vomiting. Like,
I was like, that is not a thing, my dude.
No.
I feel like...
Yeah, I guess forced regurgitation is a thing. Not black goo that spools across the room like that, Mr. Sir.
Yeah, like forced regurgitation is definitely a thing, but it don't look like that. I mean, I don't know what he would have had to eat before that to have that kind of regurgitation. It was... Oy. And
it was gnarly.
It was very gnarly. So then they get Crystal out of there, and they're calling an ambulance for him and everything. And get to see like right before they're about to like get the show started up for the next like bit, we get to see like a glimpse of June, who's going to come on in a second, and she's trying to get to Jack to like tell him something.
But Jack's like, oh, not now. Like,
well, the door shuts on her before she could say anything.
But he did not seem very
no
concerned.
He did seem concerned about Cristal.
Oh, no, yeah. Because that he like the thing is, it's his show. He knows that this wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah,
like,
he's so startled.
But we do get a nice little vignette backstory about the next guest, which is June and Lily.
Yeah, Lily.
Lily. Okay. I didn't write down her name. June. So basically, Lily. We get a little bit of a backstory of this. It's very Waco.
Yes.
The story that they kind of tell. A cult. Very different kind of cult. Both cults, but this one was very explicitly a cult for a demon called Abraxas.
Mm-hmm.
And basically there was rumors of human sacrifices and basically breeding children to be sacrifices and all kinds of different evil stuff, you know. And they get this little interview of the leader of the cult, who's in this like kind of goofy devil pope costume.
Yeah.
I guess he kind of has an Aleister Crowley kind of vibe going on.
Yeah, I would agree with
a lot of real life occult / conspiratorial influence in this movie, and I thought that was really cool because it kind of grounded it into our world a bit more.
Yeah.
But it kind of tells a story about how police went and tried to raid the property, and they self-immolated the property and themselves. Which, for those of you who don't know, means they set themselves on fire.
Yeah.
That's why it's a little different than Waco, because I am a believer that they did not set the building on fire themselves in Waco, Texas, but that's just me. But there was one survivor, and it was this girl, Lily, and there's something with her. She's
something's up with her.
Allegedly possessed by not Abraxas, as we come to find out. It's apparently one of Abraxas's little hench guys.
Yeah, that's what they assume.
That's what we don't actually have any answers, is the thing.
Yeah, and it seems like based on how June is reacting. Well, we'll get there in a second, because I want to talk about that one scene like altogether.
Like,
just scene? Like have those comments about that scene.
Oh, like the
wrapped up together.
Big scene.
Yeah, the big scene.
But we meet them, and they cut to commercial. We don't, and immediately June's like, we can't go through with this.
No, because they've convinced her to do one of her sessions with Lily live on air.
Well, she's even doing that before that. She's like, hey, like the days leading up to this, she's been in like a fugue state. She keeps saying your name in like this weird way. I can't really explain it. Like,
she's like, this isn't a good idea. We should not do this live on air. We should not do this right now.
And he's like, well, you agreed to it. And it's like, well, it's before that she started acting like this, because I don't know what's going to happen.
And it's made clear to us now that there's something going on with June and Jack.
Maybe a little romantical.
Yeah. And he's like, no, like, this is your chance to like prove this is real. This is how you get this out there, June.
She's using Carmichael. She's like, don't you want to like prove this asshole wrong?
Yeah.
Because he hates this guy just as much as us.
Yeah,
like,
he cannot stand Carmichael.
Literally telling the producer, I told you not to let me be alone with him. Like, keep him away from me when we're off air. Like,
and even when he was sitting down with Cristal earlier, he's like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need water? And then he was like, hey, like, don't pay any attention to this guy. He is, what does he say? He says he calls him a curmudgeon. Yeah, he says, but he's like all
all-
wax and no wig.
That's it. Yeah.
That's what he says. I liked that.
I like that.
I should
That's a good
start. I
saying.
should start saying that.
He's
actually.
all wax, no wick.
I mean, never mind.
What?
I'm gonna start saying that about the guys who drive the big trucks around that rev every 2 seconds. Oh, that
All
guy's
wax.
all wax, but no wick.
wick. And then anyone
just
who's
go-
not me will go. Man.
I think you can figure out what I just insinuated there.
Tiny penis. But they bring her out, and the thing is, the brief segment before they cut to commercial, she's already creepy.
Yeah,
And I think for a split second,
I think she's like already possessed or something.
Yeah, I forgot her. I forgot his wife's actual name. Minnie was so stuck in my
Minnie?
brain. Minnie,
Or it's
Madeline. It's Madeline.
Madeline.
Yes.
That's right.
I think for like right before they cut off air, she like whips her head around and goes, "It's good to see you."
Yes,
Like
that's Madeline.
that was definitely Madeline.
That was definitely her. That's what I was thinking too.
And this girl, please hold while I get her name because she does a really good job.
Amazing job. She's just
unsettling the
She's
entire
very
time.
unsettling while also being the sweetest girl I've like ever seen.
Because like I feel so bad for her.
Because she's already clearly under some sort of possession. Because the way she walks in and she feels that she has to stare directly into the cameras. And then when they explain, because, like when people go on TV, they don't know not to stare directly into the cameras. They're like, hey, you can look at me. You don't got to look in a camera, whatever.
She's played by Ingrid Torelli. Who does
Ingrid, you
really
did a
good job.
fantastic job.
And June, she also did a great job. And IMDb just swiped it away from me for some reason. She's played by Laura Gordon.
But they like tell her like, oh, you don't have to look directly into the camera. You can like talk to us like people. And even when she turns to start talking like with them,
Her movements are always sudden.
they're always very sudden, and she just keeps just staring instead of like moving like a person.
Because her eyes are just wide the entire time.
Yeah.
But basically on air, like June calls it ambushing. It was ambushing.
Yeah, for sure it was.
Jack basically is like, well, maybe we'll do one of those sessions tonight and finally prove
I don't know that Jack
everything.
was that Jack or was that Carmichael?
No, it was Jack.
Because I feel like Carmichael's the one who revved everybody up after she tried to say no.
Because I mean, it was both of them. Because Jack was definitely on board.
He was on board, but I feel like Jack maybe like alluded to it, but wasn't going to force it. And then Carmichael was like, because he starts really poking at June is what happens. And June like kind of is like,
He's basically calling her abusive and like,
yeah. And just she's like, no, I have a degree in this. This is important stuff.
She is a parapsychologist. Is that what it was?
It was parapsychologist.
Which is that a real profession?
No, it is not.
I wish it was.
I mean, I'd be a parapsychologist.
Basically, she's basically a scientific exorcist.
Basically, yeah. Like she's a psychologist exorcist. That's actually a really good job.
Just like Father Karras in The Exorcist.
Well, right, like
because he was also a psychologist.
Yeah, that's actually like a really smart person to be an exorcist, is to be a person who's a psychologist, because then they can understand what if it's not exorcism worthy. But anyway, sorry, that was a side tangent for me, but I just realized maybe I should go into psychology and become an exorcist.
Yeah, and that's when we learned that his name is Mr. Wiggles, because she's saying Mr. Wiggles like gets in my head and tries to get out.
Yeah,
like
she does very much give what Regan. She gives Regan.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because she's so likable while also being unsettling. Like, I feel like if she wasn't like kind of possessed from the moment she walked on stage, she would really be like Regan.
Yeah.
Like a happy, you know, she calls whatever is possessing her Mr. Wiggles, like Mr. What'd she call him?
Mr. Howdy.
Mr. Howdy. Like Mr. Howdy. So yeah, I think, oh, I like it. Okay. Anyway.
But yeah, they go to commercial again, just kind of more arguing, like basically begging, please don't do this. Please don't make me do this. But nope, they're getting out the restraints in the chair.
Well, because I think Carmichael's what pulls her over the edge.
Pretty much.
Because he just keeps nagging and saying, oh, well, you don't want to do it because it's not real. What? You're not going to show me because it's not real? Because it's not real?
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't have a real degree? You're a woman, you can't do things like this.
But
basically, he's basically using playground taunting to get his way.
Yeah, essentially. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it's
really
hate him.
annoying.
I really hate him.
He's just the worst.
Yes.
But it does happen. So basically, it kind of does look like hypnosis, which is a thing that's kind of more relevant later. Because she essentially brings out Mr. Wiggles.
Not to pull us to the Exorcist again, but in The Exorcist 2.
Wait. Sorry, I just remembered. It was Jack who came up with the idea. He said when she tells him about Mr. Wiggles, she's like, would it be okay if Mr. Wiggles would come on the show?
Yes. You're right. Because he does try to do it through Lily. I agree. He does try to get Lily to want to do it. Cause I think he feels that if June
Lily's very on board.
That Lily's on board, that June would be more willing.
But it makes you wonder if it's actually Lily on board.
I don't think it's Lily on board.
I don't think it's been Lily the entire time.
No, I think
it's barely her.
I think like, well, let's get into this like possession session here.
So basically it is like a hypnosis. She drops her head and suddenly it's no longer just her voice. It's Lily's voice with this other kind of Pazuzu-esque voice laid over top of it.
Yes. This one's clearly a man though.
Yes.
The first one is clearly a man's voice.
And it's very, I mean, the behavior of the demon is very similar to like an Exorcist film. Taunting everyone in the room essentially. And
how I feel like he pulls her, like how she puts her under and pulls her into it. It feels very Exorcist 2, which I hate that movie. But
yeah, hypnosis is a thing in that movie.
It is a thing, but it feels very
God, it's just don't waste your time. Don't waste your time with it. With that movie.
To be fair, if you want to watch the first half of it, it's kind of fun. And then, but once you get to like the meat of the movie, then it's like, what?
Once James Earl Jones shows up.
Basically, yeah. And that is not normally how I feel about movies. Normally, once James Earl Jones shows up, I'm like, hey, it's Darth Vader.
That movie came out the same year as Star Wars. Isn't that kind of weird?
That's so wacky.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's the thing of most note during that is that she alludes, she looks over, she's like, it's good to see you, Jack, like, and starts kind of alluding to the Grove, basically saying, you've met me before, like, we know each other, you know.
It's like, I don't think we've met. She's like, she just kind of moves on from that.
She says the tall trees.
Yeah, we met in the tall trees.
And
don't you remember?
Then starts talking mad shit about his dead wife.
Yeah.
Just be like, she's with the worms and there's nothing you can do. Ha ha ha. Like,
and then that's where June slaps her, right?
Around there. Yes.
Because
pretty much.
June keeps going, Lily, back to me. Lily, back to me. Lily, back to me. And then nothing's working and she keeps taunting. And then June slaps her.
Is this when she starts fake crying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is what I would call the only jump scare in the movie.
I don't think it was a fake.
It's not even really a jump scare.
I don't think it's a fake cry either. Here's what I think is going on. Because basically what happens here is she cries. This is the jump scare that you're talking about.
Yeah.
She cries, she leans over, then she snaps up and you see like a...
Her face is massive now. Like,
yeah,
her
and
jaw like, comes out.
Chomp. Very Tim Burton for a second.
Yeah.
Very Tim Burton for a second. And then suddenly, instead of her voice being overlaid with a man's voice, it's just a woman's voice. And she's scared. She's, where am I? Where am I? And then she sees Jack. And like, she starts trying to, I don't know what she tries to say to him because she's still so freaked out.
Yeah.
So what I think is going on here in this entire movie is there's the evil dark entity. And then there's Minnie. And Minnie has been trying to keep off this evil dark entity the whole time. I think she's been trying to protect Jack the whole time.
You know, I feel like it is like kind of a three-way war between Minnie, the evil spirit / demon, and Lily, whose body it is.
Yeah.
And that ends, and Jack is absolutely like, he's pretty much melancholy. He's like, oh my God.
Because he realized that was Minnie.
Yes.
Because he heard her voice.
He did. And he knows, like, he's a full pretty much believer at this point.
He's been a full believer the whole time.
I'd say since what happened to sorry, I forget his name. Christow. It's such a hard name to remember for some reason.
And during one of those ad breaks, we found out that Christow died in the ambulance.
He died. He's dead.
Which that's why I think the scream, like, she was trying to get a hold of Jack from the beginning of this episode because she knew bad shit was gonna go down because the evil entity was already there.
Yeah.
So she was trying to get a hold of Jack and she was like screaming. I think what happened to Christow wasn't really her. It was
the evil spirit basically killing him.
Yeah. For trying to, basically for being a medium that Minnie used to try to stop him.
Because essentially this show happening is all by this demon's design.
Yeah.
Because, and of course, Carmichael, he doesn't believe it. Like, literally, the session ends with Lily levitating in her chair.
Yeah.
And then coming back to reality after the chair comes back to the ground. And now it's Lily again, essentially.
Yeah, I think Lily's not exactly possessed from the beginning. It's more like she has a sense of Minnie, or like Minnie is kind of like seeing through her or something, because she has a familiarity with Jack. She's a little bit uncomfortable in the studio. She gives off that little bit of a weird vibe.
Yeah.
But it's not like an evil thing, and it's not a full possession either. You know what I mean? It's almost like she's got like her and Minnie occupying the same head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like, she's in more, like, Lily's in more control when she's not in her, like, you know, like, this is how we bring out the demon state. But they're both in there, and I think it just snapped back to them both being in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. But Carmichael is still not convinced.
Oh no.
This whole like next section was so wild, a very roundabout way, a very like roundabout way to get to where where it was going.
It so startled me. I wasn't ready for it.
But essentially he makes his new explanation is hypnosis.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll do a demonstration. I'll show you. And this is so fun to me.
Stay close, stranger. The room awaits you after these messages.
He gets the co-host. I forget his name. He's just your jolly, like, you know, he's every talk show's jolly fat guy because they all have one.
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll be my volunteer. Come here. And he brings out the stopwatch, very classic image of hypnosis. And he's like, you're now under my control. Snaps his fingers and he like drops.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's wild is he's basically like, he's essentially just like, there's worms in your skin. And he actually starts pulling worms, like he starts itching at his neck and there's worms, like there's like a little tab of his skin open. He starts pulling worms out of his neck.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh God, they're all inside me. He starts ripping worms out of his belly.
Oh.
And a giant worm like shoots out of his eye and he like.
Yeah. It was also very Tim Burton.
Oh, it was very Tim Burton. And
notice that whole time Lily is saying, why is he acting so funny?
Yeah, because she's not seeing it.
'Cause she's not.
And even Carmichael's putting it on. He's like, this wasn't supposed to happen. Oh. And then he snaps his fingers and then, he's fine.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's up with my shirt? Why is my shirt unbuttoned? And so essentially the movie makes it seem it's fun. It's very meta. The movie's making it seem like you got hypnotized as well. And that's why you saw what you saw like in that part of the movie.
And then they play it back and you see like,
it's just him awkwardly like opening up his shirt and you see that he's saying things that you didn't hear him say. Like, there are worms under your skin. You're itching. You're really hot. Like, you need to pull them out, like, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're very, very afraid. Like,
yeah. And so when he goes, they ask like who saw it and who didn't. And, Lily never raises her hand to say she didn't see it, but I think it's very clear that she wasn't a part of the hypnosis. I wish she said she didn't see it because that would have started to stop Carmichael in his tracks, I think, because it would be more proof that this wasn't a hypnosis thing.
Yeah, but he takes
Lily isn't being hypnotized.
He takes his demonstration. He's like, see, proof. That's exactly what you did. I'm better. I know everything. You suck. Like,
and then Lily says, well, if that's so true, why don't we play back the other part?
And he's like, by all means, let's play like the other part. And June's like really trying. She's like, no, this has gone far enough. Please.
We're
like,
done.
She can't take anymore.
We're not forcing her to watch that. We're not doing it. Stop.
But unfortunately, he and for a second they run out of time.
Yeah.
For the show. And Jack's like, well, we're going to go close out with, I forgot her name, but it was, I assume, their musical like ending or something.
Yeah.
But we can have her back next time because I don't think it's fair to leave the people hanging like this. And it's woo. Lo and behold, the footage is exactly the same as it was seen originally.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Except
he finds a point in the video where I didn't see what he saw. I saw like a face come up from the back of her head.
Which makes me kind of want to go back and pause on the actual moment itself because I also
saw the
that.
Face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I thought. That's why I didn't have you go back because I thought that's what they were flipping through the...
Because they essentially, that is what they
go
did.
frame by frame.
He reacts to it at the same moment that we like saw something. But eventually, as they're going, it's very tense as they're going frame by frame. Honestly, like no music or anything really.
And it starts like it's like the film is weird, right where I saw what I thought was a face on the back of her head, but then you see Minnie's hand, or like Minnie standing behind.
It was more than
Jack.
her hand. It was her
full,
Oliver.
It was full Minnie behind Jack, and he jumps back, and when he does that, that's when you see Minnie's hand on his shoulder. IRL.
Which was awesome.
It was so good. It was so good.
And of course, Carmichael Haig here is just going, there it is. There's the proof. You've been in on it the whole time.
Yeah.
There have been special effects, and you're a hack. You're a liar. Blah, 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 blah.
And Jack's just sitting there, like, just afraid. Like, he was Minnie, and jumps back, and that's the like only thing he said for about like 5 minutes. Just sitting there in shock, like pale as day too, like, or pale as day.
Pale as day.
So pale.
Pale as the moon.
Yeah.
But then you kind of notice something's up with Lily.
Yeah.
She's like doing just like when Mr. Wiggles came out the first time.
Except she's got like electricity kind of going around,
sparking
her.
around her head. And this whole bit kind of felt a bit Adult Swim short, if that makes sense.
It does kind of. It gives too many cooks.
But it has a lot of charm.
Yeah, Carmichael's like, stop that. This isn't funny anymore. Like, you can tell he's getting really freaked out in this moment. He's like, stop playing these games. Like, we know it isn't real. Just stop it.
And then she becomes the electric lady.
Yeah.
And this part is so cool. Her head like splits open.
Oh yeah.
And like there's just like this energy void like behind her skull.
Yeah.
Lighting up her eyes and mouth. And the co-host, he's like holding out a rosary. He's like, the power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. And then his neck just does. This was very the Gunshot and Joker-esque, the way that this kind of looked. Because that still is probably one of the most realistic deaths I've seen in a movie. This is not that realistic, but it's just the vibe. His head just turns all the way around and he drops through the table.
And right then is when everyone is like, this is real, and then they panic and start running.
Poor June can't get away though. June's trying to get trying to get her. Lily back. Like, she's doing her old Lily to me, Lily to me. And she starts levitating, getting lifted up by her necklace so hard that the necklace cuts through her throat.
Yeah.
It's gnarly.
It's very gnarly.
This is when Carmichael gets on his knee. By the way, there's this through line of, he's like, I have this $100,000 check for the first person who can ever prove to me that any of this is real. He gets on his knees, he's like, Lord of the Flies, Prince of Darkness, please accept me. I will worship you till the end of day. Like, starts doing this, and that's clearly not working. He pulls out the check. He's like,
and then Lily with the demon voice overlay goes, abracadabra,
and then like melts his face.
Yes.
Man. And Jack just kind of awkwardly is like shuffling back.
He's like trying to get away from it all.
And honestly, I thought the movie was just going to cut here and it was over.
That's what I thought too.
It's not over.
No.
We then kind of get this acid trip of a ending.
So trippy.
Where you basically get a wrap up and kind of a confirmation-ish of what's going on here.
Kinda. Yeah.
Basically, it's hard to even explain this. He's going through his own personal history now. He's ending up in different sets during different skits. And he like turns the camera. He's like, stop watching. Turn it off now.
Turn it off. Stop watching. If you're watching this, stop right now.
But then we get to the Grove, Well, a set of the Grove. That's what I thought that was kind of neat. It was not actually the Grove.
Yeah, it was a set
that looked like the Grove.
It was good.
And the anti-pope, as I'll call him, is there, which I guess that implies that he worshipped at least the same deity as they did at the Grove.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe he was a member of the Grove. Probably not, unless he went there to do the services for them and stuff. But basically, we get this one line of dialogue that is what causes the most question for me. Like we were talking about earlier, they say Jack's greatest sacrifice is yet to come.
Mm-hmm.
And it's highly implied that his wife is that sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what happens here is you see him drink the blood, which I assume is blood. He drinks out of an old goblet.
Yeah.
With surrounded by all of these Satan worshippers, essentially.
Yeah, and the Grove like head person, whatever, is dressed up as an owl.
Yes. Which spooky costume.
Yeah.
And then he they do little camera turnarounds, and now there's a door behind him, and it opens, and it's his sick wife on a bed.
Yeah.
And she basically is suffering and is like, you can do one more thing for me.
And he's crying, like he kneeled by her bedside, like crying, and was like, I love you.
And this is where it gets nutty. He stabs her in the gut. He snaps back to reality. He stabbed Lily.
Yeah.
And you stew on it for a second, and then you're at credits.
Well, you stew on it for a second, and then
the sirens.
You get the sirens, and a title card pops up.
Yeah.
And it starts melting. And melting and melting, and then it goes to static. And you're just like watching the static for a while, and then like a face kind of comes out of it.
Oh yeah, and then we cut to credits. What a movie.
It was like I said, we sat there for a good minute and a half just staring at the credits. Cause end,
I want more. I want more like this.
That end hits you really hard.
Yeah.
The moment with his wife dying is very emotional.
See, this is what I think. This is why I think that her dying, her getting cancer, or he just seems to love her that much. And what I think happened is he got initiated into the Grove, and maybe, I guess there's two ways to read it. One way is that he had to agree to his wife dying, and they have the ability to basically make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
The other way is his wife was already dying, and so...
Well, they insinuate that he was a part of the Grove before his wife was even sick.
But he did this for more success with his show.
Yeah.
Either way, he's guilty.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, unintentional or intentional, of his wife's death.
Well, because I thought what happened was he basically was part of the Grove. His final thing to get his wife's success was that he was gonna have to kill his wife, and he I'm not saying he agreed to it per se, or he just said he had to make a great sacrifice is what I'm thinking. And his wife was already terminally ill with cancer, and I think it played out just like it did in that scene.
Yeah.
Where she's dying and she's in pain and she doesn't want to do it anymore, and she asks him to help her and put her out of her misery, and basically sacrifices herself in that moment, which is why I think she's that's why I think we have warring entities the entire time, because she's been trying to protect Jack this whole time, while this entity has been trying to screw things up.
I think it's basically this is how I think you're pretty much on it. I think this entity is the reason that he is still afloat and was still like successful.
Mm-hmm.
And he consensually sacrificed his wife, essentially. Because maybe, she was already sick and she was suffering and dying. And they both knew about like what the Grove was actually capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And since it was a consensual sacrifice, there's now this war going on between Minnie and the entity. The entity is trying to collect, essentially.
Yeah.
Collect Jack's soul.
Yeah.
And Minnie's trying to protect him.
Yes.
But also, I think being in the public eye gives this entity power.
I agree.
And that's why it wants to be on the show so bad.
Yeah.
Because it is clearly the driving force for why Lily's demeanor changed days before the show. Because the entity found out it was going to be on TV.
Yeah.
And that's what's so it's also using Jack to gain more power.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's cool because you could disagree with everything we just said and you might be right.
It's such a good theorizing movie. And like, I feel like I don't know. I agree with you that it's trying to collect, and that it gains power from the show, but I don't understand what it would gain if that show ends because everyone on it died.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's maybe because it's so focused on winning the battle with Minnie at that moment.
And I think in the end, it won because Jack's a murderer.
Yeah. But
now,
that doesn't
like more than he already technically was.
Help serve its purpose. That's what I don't understand.
I think that's what we're not meant to understand.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you try to dissect the motive, the thing with demons and why they're useful in horror movies is the motive is evil for evil's sake in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I don't think that biblically, that's what a demon's motive is. A motive of the demon is to turn you away from God.
Yeah.
But that's not effective horror for the most general of population, if that makes sense. Would the idea of a horror movie about an entity trying to turn you away from God be like good for a very specific Christian base? Probably.
It's good in the 70s.
I'd even agree. A lot of almost every demon horror movie does not have that goal for the demon in question.
Mm-hmm.
The demon usually is evil for evil's sake.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
It's usually not as conniving or reliant on changing a person. It's more about terrorizing this person.
Yeah.
In most movies.
That would be such an interesting movie.
Oh yeah. Like a movie about a demon trying to twist somebody.
Yeah. That would actually make a really good horror movie.
Because the thing is, like with possession, they're twisting the person possessed, but that's not them.
No.
That's the thing.
Twisting someone to become a hateful person. That would actually be a really good movie.
Exactly.
Really like that.
Like a long form possession movie where the protagonist is the one possessed. They are the main character, not the thing to be saved.
Right.
Where you see them maybe like you could make a really good psychological horror with this person being possessed by a demon and like trying to go about their daily life. You know, maybe they're hallucinating things or hearing things or seeing things, and they start just slowly turning into the antagonist.
Yeah, and it'd also be like, I feel like a movie like that would also kind of translate into a mental illness type movie as well.
Yeah, you could make it both ways.
Because it would be that gives very much off paranoid schizophrenia.
Yes. Which is often the disease that would in the past be confused for demonic possession.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a really thoughtful movie, or it could also be a really problematic movie.
You could also argue that is the Joker. And
Kinda, no.
he's not really a good guy in the beginning, though.
No, I think that is a movie about severe mental illness, but it doesn't portray a hopeful, like, these people need help kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
That movie's meant for another purpose. I do love that movie, though. I think it's very well made.
I can't watch it.
Let's not do this, though. But yeah, that's Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, that was insane.
Highly recommend.
Very, very much recommend.
What was your score again?
9.
I was also a 9. This was refreshing. I want more movies like this. Please and thank you. But hey, if you want to discuss movies like this, you can go to discord.gg/Jumperscape. And we also have a channel in there. We can ask us some questions and we will answer them.
Yeah.
Like we are going to do right now.
Yay, Q&A. I love this part.
Batman, the Famished, asks, do you plan... Oh, wait. I answered this. We answered this. I forgot to mark it. Just listen to episode 3, says Lactation of Truth. And on the topic of comedy horrors, have you guys ever watched anything like A Haunted House? Have you guys ever watched A Haunted House? If yes, thoughts. If no, watch it, then thoughts. I have. I don't have many thoughts about the movie.
I don't know what that movie is.
You know, what was the name? You know Shorty from Scary Movie? The stoner character.
I really did block that movie out pretty much.
I've seen it. I haven't seen it in a long time. I think I laughed. I think I thought it was funny. But honestly, I'd have to give it a rewatch at some point. But I don't think we're going to be doing any horror comedy
anytime soon. Yeah.
Maybe in the future.
I don't want to say that we're not going to do anything.
Yeah. I'll never say never.
Yeah.
But probably not likely soon.
Yeah.
Kyle asks, what horror soundtracks do you like the most?
This is a good one for James. He loves horror soundtracks.
I love horror soundtracks. It's really hard to pick. If I had to go with the goat of all goats, it's Halloween. I feel like the whole thing from start to finish is just filled with great atmosphere. And a lot of that is thanks to the soundtrack by John Carpenter. But also, I like Benjamin Wallfish's work on It, both movies.
That's what I was going to say. They
have a very emotional score, very nostalgic.
Something about both It's soundtrack. You can turn it on in the car and you were just kind of transported into the scene that it's the amount of times I've gotten in the car and we've been listening to spooky music for whatever reason, and all of a sudden Stan's letter will come up from the It Chapter 2 soundtrack, and I'm ready to bawl my eyes out immediately.
If you want to just feel something, drive past like your childhood neighborhood or like places that you used to go when you were a kid and listen to Stan's Letter or Nothing Lasts Forever from the It Chapter 2 soundtrack, because you'll feel things. Yeah,
like the music moves you. As for the one that I really love the theme the most from, it's got to be Tubular Bells, man.
It's also one of the goat of all goats. Technically not the soundtrack made for the movie, but it still counts.
Tubular Bells so good.
Is the Exorcist theme now. That's just how it is.
And we listened all the way through it, like not just the part they play in Exorcist movies.
It's a very long piece, essentially.
Yeah, there's electric guitar in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's prog rock. It is what it is.
It's so good.
I think I'll have to do honorable mentions for A Nightmare on Elm Street score is really good.
That's pretty good.
Friday the 13th has a really fun score. Like the trumpets are like kind of funny, and the I wish Child's Play had a more consistent score because it's different throughout all of those movies. But it seems they've settled on the Child's Play 2 theme in the TV show as the main like Chucky song. But yeah, there's a lot. I have a whole playlist.
He does. We listen to it often.
I can share it if you guys want me to share it. I can throw in my horror bops into the Discord if you would like. Shane asks, that Shane guy was pretty funny and added quality to one of your episodes. When is he going to come back on? You wrote this early because he was on last week.
Yeah. I was going to
Grave
say
Encounters. Go check it out.
I was going to say stay tuned to find out, but I forget that they come out in the order that we record them. So,
yeah, it was a good episode. If you haven't listened to that one, it's pretty good.
Oh,
go listen to it.
Go listen to that episode. It's great.
Ethan asks, when will you be having on Stephen King? Probably never.
That would be so awesome.
That would be really cool.
I would love to pick that man's brain. I would love it so much. We would spend that. Should we make that a goal? Should we try to get Stephen King on here? Let's try to get Stephen King on here because I want to pick his brain so bad.
That would be really fun.
Stephen King?
I maybe he's really willing to do stuff like this and just no one has bothered to ask him.
Right?
So maybe it's possible. Daniel Dumpweed
nice
asks,
name.
What was the first horror character to actually scare you or make you feel any sense of horror? That's an easy question for me. Do you have an answer?
Horror character?
Yes.
Feel any sense of horror?
Could mean literally you saw a picture of them when you were a kid and it scared you.
I mean, I really wasn't exposed that much to horror as a kid. The first one of a horror movie, well, that might not be a horror movie. I want to pick something that's, I don't know. I think, I mean, Exorcist was really no. It's got to be Pennywise. Because that's how I really got into, that's where I started watching horror at all.
With Bill Skarsgård?
Yeah. Not that he's that scary, but I did feel a sense of like horror when I saw him. I also have a fear of clowns. So,
well, funny enough, mine was Pennywise, but Tim Curry.
Yeah. I never watched the Tim Curry until we watched the first half of that, the miniseries.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that was my first horror movie, essentially. It was either that or Poltergeist, but horror character, it's Pennywise.
I remember watching Poltergeist and I didn't even watch horror movies and I was just like laughing at it the entire time. That one got cheesy really quick. That lots of old horror movies as we've been watching them aged so well. Like they still.
Well, that one is meant to be kind of a like my first horror movie kind of movie.
Right, but it did not age well whatsoever.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. It's one of my childhood movies, so I feel like I'm still going to love it. But yeah, if you want to support this show or anything else we do here at Jumperscape Media, LLC,
woo.
You can go find us on patreon.com/Jumperscape, and you can join people like, James is a ghost. Poor baby.
Oh. Wait, no, don't be a ghost.
Did they say I was dead and a ghost yesterday? Is that what happened?
Thing?
I don't know.
No, don't be a ghost.
Bro, James and Ashton doing amazing today. I love to see it. Otherwise known as Kyle, otherwise known as Potassium, otherwise known as Discord Banana Guy. Thank you. I hope you're doing amazing today. Jacob Adlam, Scion Esports, shout out to those guys. It's default 456. Scion Esports, Tales from Waypoint, sponsored. Thank you. You guys are great. I don't know if I even have to do that on this show, but
but we should call them out for it.
Honestly, go check out Tales from Waypoint if you love our Halo content. That is like some of the best work here. It's great seeing those stories get brought to life. It's Default 456, Dark Salad 42. It's Dick Hammerbush. Silence for Connor. Connor and Shane's pet rat Jim, Dong Crowbar Shrub, Halo the Guy, Mr. Shifter, James Zealot. Oh my God, there's a rat, Shane, get it out. Damn, I missed quite the Patreon session yesterday, didn't I? Oh man. Spartan Dave, Captain Varco, UNSC Walk Softly, Cool Blazer, Shane the Grunt. I'm not reading that. Sorry, mister. We're going to keep not reading it. I can't do it. Did I read that last time?
I don't think you did, no.
Okay. H Ghost, Kyle Hooley, Mo Maggot Yallen, Rat Hive Lord, Spartan Habuko, G156, Addy Criminal, Connor Clark, Dapper Dame, Dylan, Lactating Gator, Lactating Milk MT, Linda Marie, Sergeant Forge's Chipotle Shotgun, the freaking Batman, the Lactation of Mercy, the rat you'll be secretly thinking about later. There is a theme that was going on this week that a rubber room with rats and rats make me crazy. Brendan Pfeiffer, Sky Cairo, Data Roth, Ismaz Dawath Deedle, Eliza, JX O'Malley, Keith G077, Oddball here, Slapnuts, Tyson Rue 88, Aussie ODST, Damian Groth, Dr. Lactator, Aragon, Face McShooty, Zealot, Wart, Ginger Bothead Ass, Hayden, Bard Don't Play Name Games, Hamilton. I appreciate you. I'm here with all these damn rats. I'm going to put my special vest and take them with me, knowing I died a good death.
Oh,
whoa. Lactating Snake Nipples, Pity 104, Pump and Munch, Ratster Chief, The Goob. This one is Machine and Werv, and this one has his mind concluded. This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded there. It just cuts off it there. Wraith, insert spectral RGB spinning party hat wearing Halo 3 ODST rat here. Extrichian, Skenji, Daniel Dumpweed, Garrus Vicarian, Is Carrie, James, do you want to read something silly for money again? I'll always read something silly for money again. Keegan, and of course, Ungoy Food Nipple, not Warm Apples. Oh, Warm Apple Swouse. Oh my God. Thank you guys once again for subbing to our Patreon. It still blows my mind that you guys love our stuff, and it makes me happy when I'm really sad at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you once again for joining us on Room 237. You all have a very spooky evening.
Yay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this evening, stranger. If you enjoyed your time with us, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/Jumperscape or join the community at discord.gg/Jumperscape. We thank you for your listenership and hope you enjoyed.